Welcome back, comrades, and in this video I'd like to introduce you to a lot of interesting stuff about Vostok watches. And I'm not actually Russian, as you can tell my accent's terrible, but I'm hoping this video is interesting because, as you can see from this information sliding up here, it's going to have some fun stuff. So hopefully you'll find it interesting, and if you do, please subscribe. And if not, now the first thing, before you look more detail about this beautiful watch, which is mine, it'd be interesting for you to know a lot more about Vostok, their history, and some of their technology, what makes them so amazing and a cult classic. So here's the next clip. So the history begins in 1941. Chistopol, as you can see, is quite far over from Moscow. Suddenly had 500 extra workers and equipment that were evacuated from the Moscow's second watch factory. And it wasn't until spring 1942 that this Chistopol watch factory started mass production, mainly of timepieces for military purposes, and by July the 1st, the factory was running at full capacity. The company was founded as a production facility working for the army, but since February 43, by order of the People's Commissariat for Motor Weapons, the factory began to produce peaceful products. For example, the first watch for men, Kirovsky. Then, after the war, the factory started production of mechanical watches, which became its main products. And in 1949, the factory started serial production of men's watches. K26 Pobeda wore marine clocks with luminous dial, clocks for the cars Zim, Volga, Pobeda. And in July 1950, the factory started to erect its own production buildings. 1952, the factory began production of camera watches. Picture here, so you can see this was watches with shockproof device and a leak-proof body, and at the same time the factory manufactured timepieces for various industries. And in 1957 there was a new production line started. It was the K28, and in inverted commas it was Vostok, Mir, Volna, Saturn and Cosmos. A couple photos here, very much space themed watches, because there was obviously a lot of activity with the Russians in regards to the space race during the 60s. So these space themed watches with different designs on the dials, etc. They had side and central second hands, lens and a shockproof device. And since 1965, the Chistopol watch production became the first watch supplier for the Ministry of Defence. And this was the time for the first famous Kommandirsky. This watch was in 1965, and here's a photo of an original one, which Vostok have actually done a re-release. Now this watch was incredibly popular, and it allowed them to release in 1967 the Amphibia. And the Amphibia had to have increased water resistance up to 200 meters. So in 1967, Mikhail Novikov on the left and Vera Belov on the right, they were designers at the Chistopol watch factory. They had a challenging task. They had to design and produce a new dive watch reliable to 200 meters and the associated changes of pressure and temperature. So the design team had already come up with the name Amphibia, as it invoked a watch equally at home underwater or on the land. And they came up with the name. That was the easy part. But producing a watch capable of meeting the needs of the Soviet Defense Department, that was the real challenge. Of course, Switzerland was capable of producing watches with such specifications, but according to Novikov, the designs they couldn't repeat because their equipment they had could not provide the necessary accuracy. So if the quality of the machines available in Russia meant the copying of the techniques of the Swiss were out of the question, then Novikov and Belov would have to approach the problem differently altogether. So a conventional way to build a watch capable of withstanding this kind of pressure at great depth is to make a watch case, crown, crystal that will have a static resistance. So a Rolex Submariner, for example, in the bath has the exact same resistance as the Rolex at 100 meters underwater. It's the same, however depth you put it. But the design of the Amphibia is different. In a way similar to EPSA's compressor system, is that the water resistance of the watch is improved as the pressure around it increases. So the elegant solution, of one of many they come up with, was the Amphibia's case back rather than the usual screw down case back, which can crush or distort the gasket. The Amphibia has a bayonet style case back with a threaded locking ring. This case back system alone does not provide adequate resistance, so the Amphibia also has a very large gasket and it's made of sintered rubber. And that innovative process, Novikov and Bezel, they actually nicked it from the Russian space programs as technology, which is really cool. And then at greater pressures, the caseback actually pushes a lot harder against this rubber gasket, making the resistant seal stronger and tighter, effectively the deeper you go. And the thick acrylic crystal operates in a similar fashion. It flexes higher pressures, and that effectively is making the watch more watertight the deeper you go. It's incredible stuff. So with all that in mind, since 1969, all the watches produced by that factory had the same brand name, Vostok, which was inspired obviously by space rockets, which I photograph here, from the space era. And the company was named Chistopol Watch Factory. So how deep can a Vostok really go? Well, unless you are an amazing scuba diver, you're never really going to know, but you can, on dry land, put it in one of these testing devices. And once you put it in here, you can slowly increase the pressure to see what a watch is capable of taking. This person thought, save risk blowing their machine up, they thought they'd be tentative and put it at 40 bar, which is equivalent to 400 meters, double the stated rating. And this watch managed to take that, no problems, no leaking, nothing. And you're thinking, well, 400 meters, I'm never going to dive that deep. But some people have. And if they were to wear a watch, why not wear one of these Vostoks? Because the world record is 332.35 meters deep. Now, the watch in this video is my own personal watch, which I built myself. But you're going to see where you can buy your own Vostok, and also I'm going to show you where you can buy your own aftermarket parts and genuine parts to make changes yourself. So here's some information for you now. I really recommend Miranom. They're a great place to buy your Vostoks. I've bought a number of Vostoks from them, and it's always been an enjoyable, reliable service. Now here's the Amphibia, and there's loads of different case shapes. The one I've got for this video is the 090 case. I think it's known as the pillow case. I'm not even joking. It is literally known as the pillow case. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, if you didn't like the dial or bezel design on your watch, you can actually buy individually those components, bezels or dials, under the spare parts section. You can actually buy, there's loads of people that sell these on eBay and other places, different dials and bezels and many other parts. And I'm going to do a separate video of how you do this, but you can change the parts of the watch yourself. That's the beauty of the modding thing for these watches. They're so easy to work on. I was scared at first, but I thought I'll give it a go, get a few basic tools, and you can change the parts. One of the easiest things to change is the bezel. It's the first thing people do. As you see here on Miranom, I found there's a number of different choices for my case shape, the 090 case. As you can see here, if there's anything there I like, I could get one of those, easy to swap over. But if I don't like one of those, there's another place I recommend called 1 Second Closer, and they do beautifully machined, custom made bezels, inserts and hands for Seiko and Vostok. So we focus on the Vostok. I've bought a few of their bezels, inserts and hands, and they've all fitted perfectly, zero problems. Finishing is absolutely perfect. They fit perfectly. They cost a little bit more. Sometimes they can cost half the amount of the actual watch, but it's such a significant upgrade. It's worth investing in if you really love your watch and you want to change just one major thing. There's a nice amount of choice. It's definitely worth a go if you really fancy changing that. I like to call this my glamour shot section, or the clips and pics. Here's a little scene from me taking the watch out for a lovely day trip to the New Forest. I think you'll find it's jolly good fun. Ah, beautiful day. Chilling by the sea, natural habitat for Vostok. Now sitting in a bucket of water, then I will lie on a rock to dry off. Very nice. Then after this, I lie on a rock again, then sea come in. Wash me away. So here we have it. This is my beautiful Vostok Amphibia. It's modified from its original form, and what I wanted to show you was, for this case shape, this is the 090 case, what kind of dimensions and weights to expect for this size watch. This is one of the larger style cases you can get. When you check out the Merinon website and any other sites for all the other case shapes, the more compact size cases are like the 420 or the 120 case. They do have a slightly more compact size in terms of how much actual case material there is, and this case accommodates a 22mm strap, so the other ones accommodate only an 18mm strap. So there's a difference significantly in how a Vostok can look, but the dials are always very, very similar, if not identical in size, so that doesn't really change. And it also makes it easy for you to interchange the dials between the different models, so you can really pick and choose how you want your watch to look to a degree. So for this particular Vostok, I'm going to take it off its little support thing there, and what we've got here is another one of these beautiful watch gecko bracelets which I got. I got this because this kind of mesh works with the design theme of this watch, and being an extremely water resistant watch, it's good to have a bracelet or strap which is going to work really well in the water, and these do, and these are so easy to adjust. The reason why I recommend changing the strap on any Vostok is the ones that come as standard are very bad. They are hair pullers, they're light, they're flimsy, they feel cheap and nasty. They're functional, don't get me wrong, they're not going to just fall to bits, but for a small amount of extra money, you can put it on something like this, which is extremely comfortable. So why not treat yourself? Now moving on to the watch. The specification of this size Vostok is the case length. It's a bit like a Seiko Turtle or things like that. It's relatively short at 48mm long, and concealed lugs, which is nice. So it makes it look more smooth in design. The weight of this watch on this bracelet, so it's going to be very similar to if you had it on its original bracelet, is a nice sweet spot of 148 grams. It's quite a chunky watch. The thickness here, because of the crystal, and on mine adds maybe an extra millimetre because I've got an exhibition case back I've put on here. It takes it to 16mm thick. So if you're thinking of putting this on a NATO, bear in mind that will add another couple of mil to that, and it can feel quite top heavy and very wobbly. I know from experience, so bear that in mind if you're thinking of putting it on a NATO strap. Some people don't really mind or notice, but do consider that if you are going to put it on one, that does affect how it wears on the wrist. The crown is nice, a good size 7mm crown, and the case width of this one is 42mm. Now the things I've changed on mine is the bezel, which I got from 1 Second Closer, the bezel insert, and I bought the hands as well. They have a decent upgrade in the loom, so I'll just quickly show you a loom shot. So I've turned off my powerful light, and I'll just give you a quick idea of the loom on the hands is significantly better than on the standard hands, and on this bezel it's got some nice extra loom on the 12, 3, 6 and the 9 o'clock positions. The dial itself does have some little dots of loom which match the colour of the aftermarket parts I put on, so this has a nice amount of loom now, and it's a good thing to upgrade on a dive watch as loom is quite important. So back to the watch. What's unique about this watch? I talked about the water resistance and how it is so water resistant because the design of the domed acrylic and the two-part case back, this ring pushing this center part against a gasket. Another unique feature which people initially, if they didn't know about it, is the crown. Many of you, if you've watched Vostok videos, will see this has got a wobbly crown. It's not wobbly because it's anything actually broken. It's actually a very clever, very simply done decoupling mechanism in there. And what happens is, if you are in active service, as this is deemed initially a military watch, and you knock the crown and damage it, it doesn't transfer that damage through into the movement, so your watch will still work. And these parts are really easy to remove and replace for just a few dollars. So that's a really clever design trick. Screw down, of course, to aid with that incredible water resistance. Another clever thing I like is this rotating bezel being bidirectional, uni's one. So this is bi, so it can go that way. Swings both ways, this bezel. Sorry, helps if it was on my wrist, but you can, it's got a lovely, it's friction effectively, which is what holds this in its current position I've put it in. And what's clever about when you dive, the more pressure again put on this piece, it becomes more water resistant, and it also puts pressure on the bezel and will more likely, I wouldn't say it locks it, but it holds it tighter in place in the position you set it at. So I'll put it there. If I'm scuba diving, I'm gonna go down 20 minutes, I've put it there, I go down, I know that the pressure of the water is going to hold it more reasonably in that position. But there is still a risk of you knocking it, but it's the same on any dive watch, to be honest with you. And there's not been any dramatic complaints from anyone in the scuba diving world of that being a problem that I'm aware of. So the other changes that I've done to this watch, other than what you can see, the upgraded hands, bezel, etc., is turn the watch over. I've put in here as well, it's got the date complication movement, and I didn't like when I put on my exhibition case back seeing quite a bland looking rotor. So I bought from Merinon this goldy coloured one, and that was about $10. So again, it's not very expensive, and it's a case of doing one screw, use some good watchmakers tweezers to remove it and put it back on, put the new one on. It's really, really good, very easy. Now, if any of you are interested, let me know in the comments. I can do a how-to guide for changing any of the items on this watch, such as clever tips and tricks on how to safely change the bezel without damaging both the bezel and the watch itself, how to change the dial, how to change the hands, how to regulate your watch. I've done that on this and it's running really, really nicely, -3 now. It was at -18 when I got this movement, so it takes a little bit of fettling to get it right. I can show you how the back comes off, and I can show you how to change a few basic components and take it apart, and how to put the watch all back together again without any fluff or dust underneath, with just a few quite cheap and easy to obtain tools. It's something anyone can give a go if they're reasonably confident, and these are great watches to practice on because they are very basic, very utilitarian, very reliable, rugged pieces that you can do these kind of things to. And if you break anything or lose anything, it's so easy to buy almost any part to replace it. This part will be quite short. It's me just discussing my likes and dislikes. I like almost everything about this watch. Its design, its history, it's fun, it's easy to work with, it's a great learning experience. Dislikes, sometimes it feels a little bit cheap and a bit like a toy, but that is it. So I hope that's been thorough enough for you guys. And any more questions or information you would like to know about this video, I really appreciate it in the comments. And I also really value new subscribers. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button, it'd be much appreciated. And you'll get to see more content, varied, interesting content, I hope, for you guys who are as passionate about watches as I am. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.